Let's Talk About It. I have a very exciting guest today, Mr. Scott Jefferies. Scott is a big-time actor, not only in the city of Houston, but he's doing things all over the place. Mr. Scott Jefferies will be with us in just a moment on Let's Talk About It. Look forward to seeing you guys. Hello and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About It with my awesome guest today, Mr. Scott Jefferies. Scott is an actor here in the city of Houston and all over the place, actually. Scott, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Ferrell. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, my friend.
Same here, same here.
Always.
Now, I know you got a lot of things going on. I think a lot of people might know you from the television show Friday Night Lights. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Now, what was that experience like for you working on Friday Night Lights?
You know, Ferrell, that's a great question. And being a high school football player, coming from the state of Texas myself,
right?
You know, it was really an honor to be a part of that show because there's so much great history behind Texas high school football and the correlation of how it takes us later on in life and the identity that we have as athletes growing up. And just being a part of that was so special to me because, you know, I lived that life growing up. So
all right.
Really.
So now the acting thing. How did you actually get into acting? What inspired you to be an actor, Scott?
Well, I was playing football at Baylor University.
Did you say Baylor?
Yes, it was.
Baylor here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet. And so I was in a car wreck my freshman year right before the Blue Bonnet Bowl. I was a group of recruited guys that did not sign. Were supposed to sign second semester at Baylor, and I had a head-on collision, which put me in a coma for about 2 weeks. I had a subdural hematoma, crushed both my feet, broke my right, tore my or crushed my right kneecap.
Okay.
So I was a different guy when I came out of this unconsciousness, and so I was kind of trying to identify what do I want to do in life, and that was acting was something that came natural to me because, you know, we all think about doing something different in life and being an actor and being able to put that energy and focus of being a football player, and that's something that just really interested me to do.
Right. I actually remember you and I had a conversation one day.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about the accident, and I remember you saying to me that when you came out of whatever it was you felt totally different.
I was.
It was like you were a brand new person, or you didn't see things quite the same way that you saw things before.
Did not. You know, I was, when I came out of the coma, I was mentally about a 4-year-old. Had to learn how to read and write and everything again.
Wow.
Really went through some really tough times. Wasn't myself there for about 13, 14 years. Had some things that happened in my life that, you know, just God just opened some doors and really changed my life and head me in a different direction. But it had given me it gives you a different heart, Ferrell, when you're talking to people and you see people in this world, whether it's relationships or whether it's friends or whatever. It kind of gives you a different heart.
Right.
When you see people who are going through things in their own life that say, you know, I know this person's struggling.
Yeah.
And I want to be there for them. And that's kind of what it did for me.
Okay. So basically, it increased your level of compassion.
You bet.
In addition to changing your life.
You bet it did.
All right. Scott, I know you got a lot going on. So tell me what's next for Mr. Scott Jefferies.
Well, I'm working on a film in New Mexico called The Storm God Rides. I'm playing Doc Holliday in that film.
Doc Holliday.
It's written by a guy named Thomas C. Kelly. Michael Priest, who's a well-known director in LA, is going to be directing it. Got some great names attached to it. One of my good friends, Demetrius Polito, Granger Hines, is associated with it. And of course, I'm playing Doc. So.
And you're playing. So you have the leading role.
I'm one of the, I'd say, 4 or 5 roles there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So what does that feel like for you?
You know, it's exciting. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like that first date you go on. You don't know what to expect. And I mean, I've worked on, you know, a lot of stuff. I've been really fortunate that I've met the right people and they've liked me for who I was as a person. I think that's opened doors for me. And my story, you know, from my car wreck and playing ball at Baylor has opened those doors for me. I've been really blessed. But it's kind of something you see it and you're going, okay, is this really real?
Right.
Or is it not? You know, and you always kind of wait for that moment to go, okay, Scott, this is not real. It's not really going to happen for you. But, you know, you just have faith in God every day that He's leading you in the right direction and kind of putting you where you're supposed to be. So I'm excited about it. It's I don't try to get the cart before the horse, so to speak.
Right.
Just kind of take things in perspective and kind of take it slow. Don't run my mouth. I've done that before, and you know and it's not something that's the end result is not good with it. So, you know how it works.
We live and we learn, though.
There we go.
We live and we learn. So after this film,
Just try to stay balanced, man. Work
that
out
right?
a little bit. You know, Botox here, Botox there, don't hurt.
You do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do, my friend. There you go. There you go.
You've been in the industry now for how long?
Working professionally about 8.5, 9 years.
Is that right?
You know, I've done this for about, I guess my first film I did was 1992.
Okay.
I did a film with some buddies of mine back in San Antonio, where I'm from, or grew up, high school.
Okay.
And did that film. It never finished. They got about 3/4 of the way done. They had some great actors in there. Willie D from the Ghetto Boys was in it.
Willie D was in that? Is that right? Okay.
And had some other guys. There were some local actors here in Texas that were involved with that. But you know, never really finished off. But I kind of went through that whole phase of kind of learning about the industry, and I did some stand-in parts and did some extra parts, and you know, got in with an acting coach here in town, Dick Anderson, who's one of my great friends, and kind of taught me, was my Vince Lombardi, so to speak, when it came to acting, and taught me really what it took to be successful in this business, not only from a personal perspective, but as a professional perspective, and knowing how to market myself, and knowing how the proper, you know, there's so many things in this industry that are there's so many variables. You know, sometimes you get one chance to, you know, it's for to
impress or
impress.
To make a difference,
yeah, and it's just something that it can bite you in the backside, or you can be successful. It just depending on who likes you and how they perceive you, and it's one of those things, Ferrell, that you have to know the business.
Right. Well, I think one of the things probably work in your favor is your personality.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that, you know, one of the end results of my car wreck was, and I guess, you know, growing up and being a football player, and I played quarterback all through high school and colleges, you know, have to know what's important. And I think, you know, some days, can't put everything on you. That someone reacts to you because they're having a bad day, and you take it personal. You have to realize everybody's their own individual, and they may not be going through what you're going through. So you have to understand that it's not about you all the time.
Absolutely.
And when you're going in an audition, sometimes people may be having a bad day, and it may be a key word you say to her, hi, or how you doing when you're walking.
That could be the
street.
trigger for
a trigger to make somebody's day, and that's how I live my life every day.
I believe that. In the period of time knowing you, I know that you're that kind of guy. You're that kind of guy. That's what you exude. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like, and that's why when my project was getting ready to come up, I was like, man, Scott got to be a part of this here. Let me holler at Scott.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you, without any doubt, came in and was a part of my project called In My Lifetime. And man, I get so many wonderful remarks from those images that are in the book because of you.
That was such an honor to get to be a part of that book, and you know, President Obama being elected at the time was such a great time for our nation, and kind of the change that was going through in our country at that time. And I think it was a remarkable thing for you to ask me to do, and I was very, very honored to do that. So.
And I'm so glad you did. There's other projects that I'm going to work on in the future too. I may end up calling you up.
I appreciate it.
Hey Scott, man, I need you to do this or do that.
Thank you.
And I know you'll be there because you're Scott Jefferies.
Yeah.
You're that kind of guy, man.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I think the world of you.
Oh, pat me on the back, man.
You know that.
There you go. All right. Mr. Scott Jefferies in the house. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of Scott. Thank you. All right, we're back with my good friend, Mr. Scott Jefferies, an awesome actor who's doing tons of projects, not only in the city of Houston, but in other places, in San Antonio and New York and Mexico. Was it Mexico?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Just all over the place. Scott is an awesome, awesome actor. Scott, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you deal with rejection? Or how do you deal when you go to an audition and they're like, okay, this is not the guy we're looking for? How do you handle that?
Great question. I think a lot of actors go through that, take it personal. I believe, and I'm going to digress a little bit.
Okay.
I believe God sets foundations for your life to put you through things. You know, I had my car wreck, and I played for a guy who was a legendary high school football coach. He was actually a Marine one time. So I learned to fight and come back and make myself better.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons I came back from the car wreck like I did. But I was a pharmaceutical rep for 6.5 years.
That's what I knew you as that.
And so when you go through that daily, and you have to learn about rejection, it's not about you, because you're talking to doctors.
Okay.
That they may be upset about their kids, you know, having a bad day, or their wife having a bad marriage, or they're upset
whatever
with
it
their
is.
wife. And no is the hardest thing for us to take as an answer, and it's the worst thing we can ever hear from any side of our business or our life is no.
Is no, right.
And so it made me have thick skin. It made me start to realize that it wasn't about me. It was about other people. And so when I go into an audition, I'll give you a perfect example. I was in Dallas last week auditioning for the TV show Dallas.
Okay.
Had a great audition. Everything was smooth. The producers
Now,
like
did
me.
you say Dallas, the
The
TV
TV show,
show,
right?
the new one that's
Right,
running?
correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I was in for this audition. A good buddy of mine who was in there as well, Carlos Sepulveda,
Okay.
and I knew he was auditioning as well. And Carlos is a great actor, a good friend.
Mhm.
And I went in for the audition, and I thought, man, I nailed it.
Okay.
Well, he got the call. I didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not about, the audition. It's about
Right.
the look. It's
Right.
about the way that you may have talked to the producer or director,
Mhm.
something that might have triggered them. So
Right.
it's not always, those aren't the variables about, well, he is a handsome guy, or she's a beautiful girl,
Right.
or she had a great audition. It may be the look. They have in their mind already what they want. So you can't
Absolutely.
take that personal.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right. Tell me this, Scott. What would be your ideal role? What would Scott Jefferies' ideal role be? Your fantasy role, the things that you would love to do.
I really think Doc Holliday is going to be it.
Okay, so actually you're living out right now.
Playing that Western, growing up, I was always that kid in the neighborhood when I wasn't playing football or basketball or, other stuff, or baseball. I remember being this high and dressing up like a cowboy and walking through the neighborhood with a guitar, and thought I was Glenn Campbell or whatever I was doing, But, there was always that, that Lone Ranger character, or being that guy. That Western kind of thing. I guess my dad grew up watching I grew
Okay.
up, watching.
So you
my
had that
dad watch
influence.
Western. I had that influence, and working maybe with a guy like Robert Duvall or Kevin Costner or one of those guys is something that's been ideal for me as an actor. I've always wanted to do, and so when I was notified about this film and this audition, it was like, man, this is it, man. This is just it made me feel like this is the role that I've been seeking and wanted, and I believe that God answers prayers, and He knows the focus point where He wants you in life, and I think that's what it's, if you're in tune with that, those things happen.
So that has to feel good for you.
It does. It's going to be a challenge for me, because Doc was such a interesting character. He was a dentist, went to dental school. He came from a very affluent family, was dating a prostitute his whole adult life. He died at 36 in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And he dated a prostitute who was the eldest daughter of a very affluent family. And the struggle that he had to go through, being jealous, knowing that she's with other men.
Right.
And then the relationship that he had with her during that whole time. It was just something that's very intriguing to me. I mean, you think, well, I can play that character, but really thinking about that in your life, and everyday life, is something you go, oh, geez. I mean, we've all dated other girls, or other girls that we've dated are dating other guys. That happens.
That's normal.
That's normal in life. But dealing with to that extent of a life that a woman is working as a prostitute on a daily basis and living with her, I got to go to work. I'll be back later. It's just a different.
The average man's ego couldn't handle something like that.
So yeah, it's and I guess that rejection thing we talk about, that I'm sure he felt that kind of on a daily basis, but they had a very functional relationship from what I understand.
Wow.
And she died he died with her at his bedside, and so she was with him the whole time. So it was a really interesting story.
That's very interesting story.
Yeah.
Very interesting story. Tell me this: what type of roles would you not play? Are there any roles that you just won't play?
And also, well, there's things that I would not do. That I wouldn't go to. There's a dark side that we go to in life, and I think, I would be challenged to play someone who was maybe a serial killer of children or someone like that.
Okay.
But I don't think we see those roles so much nowadays. I'm open to a lot of things. I think that you just have to look at it on a project by project basis, to see what's there. I think that your convictions and your life and your heart, what your purpose in life, whether you want to transmit that on screen.
Right.
I couldn't. There's certain things that I couldn't do. But I take that. I guess I'm giving you the PC answer. I have to take that project by project to see what it is. So that's my answer to that.
All right. Now, I know Austin is a big mecca for the film industry.
It is.
A lot of things are happening in Austin.
It is.
How does Houston compare to Austin as far as that's concerned?
Unfortunately, Houston has. They've always talked for years about it being the third coast, as far as film, and Texas, I guess, in general. But Austin has such an eclectic community there, with the music industry and the arts there. Houston, just for some reason, has not taken off. We don't really have that studio
Okay.
We have some studios here, but we don't really have that multi-million dollar or $1 million studio
Okay.
that brings films in here. Majority of the people that work here in town do industrial stuff. They do commercials, which
Right.
is a big business for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the people that do work here go to Louisiana, or they go to Austin or Dallas to work and on the,
Okay.
behind the camera. But it's a different area because it's just not as strong as Austin
Right.
is. We have shot some movies here. I shot a film called Houston a few years back.
Okay.
That had some great actors in it. Jason Douglas was in it. Some other guys I worked with, Ricky Catter, some Houston guys. Was a German-based film that was shot partly in Germany and part here.
Really?
But they shot it here in Houston, and
Okay.
and the production was actually set place in Austin, of course.
Okay.
But you know, it's just a different
And
community.
I know that the film industry has tried to inundate Houston with films and movies. They tried to make Houston more of that movie mecca type city.
Right.
Over the last few years, I know they've really tried hard at that. But I guess they haven't really been as successful as some of the metropolitan. The other
No,
major
they really
metropolitan
haven't.
cities.
I think that it's a money thing. I think Houston is more, just from my perspective, I think it's more of a conservative type. There's a lot of old money here. There's a lot of people who are not willing to take the risk. You don't have a trendsetter like a Robert Rodriguez that's going to come to Houston or lives in Houston that says, hey man, I got a studio, let's make movies, let's do Sin City here, let's do Machete here. We don't have that guy here.
Okay.
And maybe with David and I working what we're doing, maybe we'll have that success and be able to do that here. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what God's got in store for us, but you know, whatever it is, we're going to try to bring that here eventually.
All right.
I think that that's the potential to do. So
Fantastic. Man, you got so much stuff going on, just a wealth of information. I appreciate that.
thank you.
And you're making a great guest on Let's Talk About It, needless to say.
Thanks a lot.
So after all the acting stuff is done, ultimately, why do you want to retire? What do you want to do? Would you
Well-
want to stay in Houston? Would you want to go to Austin? What's in your head?
You know, I think that, you know, my family's here in Texas, and that's
Okay.
kind of where my heart's been. I have gone into a business venture with my father, who's been in the oil and gas business about 55 years.
Okay.
He's 80. And so I got him out of retirement to help me build this company and that I'm working with. And so my interest right now, when I'm not doing film and television, is to work with him to
In
build
your
this company. And we're handling products. I mean, you know, Texas, you look at Texas economy, we have the lowest unemployment rate anywhere in the country.
Right.
And the oil and gas industry is probably going to be here for another 150 to 200 years.
Absolutely. It's going nowhere.
And a lot of jobs are going to be created because of that, and that's a great thing. And I think that that's where I see myself 15, 20 years down the road. I think
Okay.
you know, I tell my friends, they're like, well, what are you doing this and what are you doing next? I say, you know, man, if I didn't work tomorrow,
Mhm.
if I never worked again, man, I've got to do some cool stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. And not everybody can say that.
You know,
So it's always good to have another plan, something else that we can do
There you go, man.
or aspire to do.
There you
Scott, you've been an awesome guest, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you
good
for
to see
being
you.
here.
Thanks.
All right. We've thoroughly enjoyed your presence on
Thanks,
Let's
brother.
Talk About It,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next time. Stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Let's Talk About It just as much as I did with my wonderful guest today, Mr. Scott Jefferies, who is doing big things in the acting industry. If you want more information on Mr. Jefferies or about our show, you can contact us at Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. That's Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. Until next time, we'll see you then.